Our patrol division received a call from her grandmother. Angela had gone walking the neighborhood. She hadn't returned.
I knew she wasn't alive. I just had that gut feeling. It's just like a mother, their child gets hurt and they get that instinct.
A lot of fear happens when you identify that your suspect is a registered sex offender.
This man groomed her. He lied to her.
He had coaxed her into meeting with him, and that was the beginning of some bad things that happened.
The murder of 16-year-old Angela Allen is one of the most devastating cases in Arkansas. A young girl with a sweet smile is lured to her death by a convicted sex offender. Investigators say her offender lured other women the same way. Fortunately, they knew something wasn't right and walked away from the situation. Welcome to Unnatural State of Crime. I'm Jo Ellison. Angela Allen was a lot younger than these women. She didn't have as much life experience. In 2012, convicted sex offender Lloyd Jones set his sights on her. Now investigators are sharing her case in hopes the patterns can help others recognize the signs of a sexual predator. This is the story of Angela Allen.
Angela was my miracle baby. I was hit by a drunk driver. I was on bed rest. She come out to be a perfect, healthy baby girl. She was my miracle baby.
Angela Allen, a little girl who liked to smile, grew up with her brother Seth. Their mother, Cecilia Dixon, says she had hard times in her life.
Angela grew up without her dad. I'll be honest, I wasn't the best parent. Babies don't come with instructions. I gave my parents permission to be able to adopt my kids, so that way they wouldn't be in the foster system.
In particular, Cecilia's mother, Colleen Allen, was now the primary caretaker of Seth and Angela. In February of 2012, they lived in this housing authority neighborhood in Van Buren, Arkansas. Angela, now 16, attended Butterfield Junior High.
Like any typical girl, I'm turning 16, I want a phone, I want my driver's license. She was a typical child, a typical 16-year-old, and so smart.
Unfortunately, this is where Angela's life is cut short. February 10th, 2012, Colleen Allen calls the Van Buren Police Department.
She reported to our patrol officer that Angela had gone walking the neighborhood at approximately 7:30 and that she hadn't returned, and she was worried.
Van Buren Police Sergeant Jonathan Ware remembers the call coming in. We
have officers that come to the area and kind of drive the neighborhood. This occurred on a weekend, and she obviously didn't come home that night. So, at that point, things are heightened a little bit.
A task force was formed that helped law enforcement reach into different areas of the investigation.
This was a multi-agency thing. We had the FBI immediately gave us resources, the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office and the Crawford County Sheriff's Office.
Investigators start zeroing in on her social media activity and cell phone usage. They're gathering info to get subpoenas. During that weekend, a text message is sent from Angela's phone to her family. It says she has a new boyfriend and is on her way to a city about 2 hours away.
They were in a black Camaro and they were going to Little Rock.
Missing posters went out. Friends, family, strangers hit the streets looking for Angela. Her mother, Cecilia, who lived in Little Rock at the time, started looking there.
I was out in Little Rock, going down streets, all over to see if I could find my child. As a mother, you know when something bad happens.
Days go by. Angela hasn't contacted anyone. A highly social 16-year-old goes silent. The subpoenaed information comes in. It hits the floor of the FBI's command post.
A fax machine was overflowing. There was a stack of results, data coming in on her phone number.
We start with, who are the contacts that, that her family knows, and then we go to the contacts that they're not familiar with.
That's when investigators say they discovered 36-year-old Lloyd Jones, a convicted rapist and registered sex offender, had been communicating with Angela. They brought him in for questioning.
We were able to identify a number that her grandmother was not familiar with. A lot of fear happens when you identify that your suspect is a registered sex offender. Things start playing in your mind of what are we going to find out through this? It can't be good. And so, unfortunately, our worst nightmare was confirmed.
At this point, friends and family feared the worst, and they were right about that feeling. Investigators had Lloyd Jones in an interview room. They knew he had been communicating with Angela in an extremely inappropriate way. They'd get the truth, but not before learning about his shocking criminal history.
He was a very strange person. The first time that I had met him, of course, was the original case where I had arrested him for rape.
At the time, Sebastian County Sheriff Bill Hollenbeck knew of Lloyd Jones.
And he was a different person. You could tell that he was very narcissistic. He had a air about him that he was smarter than everyone else.
Jones was from Lavaca in southern Sebastian County. He was convicted of rape in April 2001. Court documents say he broke into a woman's home, held a box cutter to her throat, and raped her. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison and was released on parole in September 2008. He was now a registered sex offender.
Was somebody that I think more women could have been a victim of him if he wasn't arrested.
Now it's February 2012. Investigators are questioning him in the disappearance of 16-year-old Angela Allen. Then FBI agent Crimes Against Children Jim Cottle is one of the investigators interviewing Jones.
Our bad guy's story to us, story number one, essentially, was that he had met her online. They had decided to meet.
Jones told investigators he picked her up near the end of her neighborhood street, and within minutes he realized she was underage and told her to get out of the vehicle.
And he said he panicked at that moment because, she's 16, he's an adult, he's a registered sex offender. He could be arrested if he was stopped and she was in the vehicle with him.
But investigators say text messages between the two proved Angela told Jones she was only 16.
Our bad guy knew that she was 16 before he ever showed up to see her.
Investigators say Jones tried to cover his tracks and went as far as telling them Angela called a friend to come get her, a friend with a black Camaro. The same black Camaro mentioned in a text message from Angela's phone to her family, where the text told them she was traveling with a new boyfriend to Little Rock. But behind the scenes, investigators knew Angela never sent that text message. They think the person who took her did. Jones tries to spin another story about pushing Angela into the water while along the banks of the Arkansas River. Investigators say none of it was true. They thoroughly checked out the river site and had word for word the online and text message conversations between Jones and Angela. And now they had information from the phone company. They pinged Angela's cell phone, which never went to Little Rock, never went to the river, but it did end up near Jones's home.
Angela's cell phone had hit several times in Sebastian County around the Lavaca area. And
Not in Little Rock.
Not in Little Rock, correct. And it was during the time frame, it was that Friday night that she went missing, February 10th.
Now they needed to know where he was on that Friday night Angela disappeared. Investigators went to his home where he lived with his girlfriend and ex-wife. They say his girlfriend told police she didn't believe he was responsible for Angela's disappearance.
She knew this because he had been working at their shack. They were building a cabin or a shack that was on some adjacent property that a relative owned. And so he'd spent all Friday night out working underneath the floor of the shack to do something to it. And she knew that because he came home and his clothes were all muddy. All the Arkansas River was just a wild goose chase that he had sent us on. I can remember looking. I was still wearing the same tennis shoes essentially that I was wearing the night before, and they weren't covered in mud like like girlfriend or wife claimed that he was when he came home. So that indicated to us we were probably looking at a burial site.
The property where this shed is located belongs to Lloyd Jones's family. Investigators are wanting to look there. They get permission, and this is when Angela Allen is found.
Some folks in the Lavaca area that have always been helpful to us, and they have cadaver dogs, or dogs that can help you find human remains.
Sebastian County Sheriff's Captain Philip Peavyhouse was there when they searched the property.
And they brought one of those dogs up to this property with them, all under consent of the property owner. And as the dog is going through, the dog makes a slight indication near a well house that was on the property.
Investigators spot an area that looks like it had been disturbed. They move some earth around and find a blue barrel peeking out from under the ground.
Now thinking this could be direct evidence to Angela Allen and her being missing, we're on a property by consent, which the property owner, of course, can withdraw that consent at any time. You know, it's time to get a search warrant, and that's where I entered into the picture, and so they called me. 6:30 or so before I finally was in the home of one of our circuit judges. And he has to read it then and agree with it, or send you back for revisions or change something in it. But he didn't change anything, and he signed it, and I immediately called them, and then they could begin to really see what was going on around this barrel.
We continued that dig and determined, in fact, that it was a blue barrel with what we believed were the remains of Angela Allen.
Finally get it free, and then we had to lift the barrel by the straps up on top of the well house where we've already spread a sheet, with the hope being we get it up here, we're going to throw this sheet around it to further protect it, then we're going to have to lower it to the other side of the ground. We already had a coroner vehicle there, and it's going straight to the crime lane.
Fortunately, they found her. She was the victim of a violent crime, and he had done certain things to make her fit inside the barrel. It was something that was, she did not deserve to die that way. I think it affected all the investigators there. We were so desperately wanting to find her alive. This was not the outcome that we had wanted, but we were also very thankful to identify the suspect and arrest him.
Investigators say Angela was strangled and there was evidence sexual acts had occurred. Angela would never come home. Investigators couldn't walk her through the front door, but they were able to give her family a necklace Angela was wearing at the time.
Specifically, one of the things that was found inside was there was a particular necklace. I believe it was a butterfly locket that was attached to it. And that was something that was special to her and her grandmother.
I want that one question answered as to why.
Friends, family, complete strangers gather at the community center in Van Buren tonight to remember 16-year-old Angela Allen. Clutching candles, they remember the teen who disappeared more than 1 week ago. Angela's mother, Cecilia, held back tears.
I just want her to come home, and I know I can't have that.
Lloyd Jones is convicted in the murder of Angela Allen. He goes to prison, but around 4 years later, he escapes from a correctional facility in Brookings, Arkansas. He was on a prison work detail at a construction site when he escaped. Angela Allen's family is notified, and also the investigators who put him behind bars.
It's like a slap in the face. And I'm thinking, oh my God, do I have to go through all of this again? There's just no way.
And we were on a mutual aid channel, and we could hear the troopers and the FBI agents and prison officials and all of the people who were working to locate him. We could hear them on that radio system. So I remember the day that I'm sitting there listening to when they actually caught him. And it's like watching your team win at the Super Bowl.
Lloyd Jones didn't make it far from the prison and was put back in jail after 3 days of hiding in a wooded area. He is now serving out his sentence at a maximum security prison in Tucker, Arkansas. Angela's grandmother, Colleen Allen, has since passed away. But Angela's family and investigators are keeping her memory alive by sharing an important message.
Internet safety is so important for these teenagers. I don't want another teenager to go through what my daughter went through. I don't want another parent to go through what I've had to go through. Know who your child's talking to. Look at their phone every day. And if their attitude changes or their demeanor, get to the bottom of it and see what's going on.
You need to be very careful on social media because the person on the other end, they could be somebody that we have no clue, somebody different from what they're portraying themselves to be.
Investigators say sexual predators practice and try to perfect intimidation tactics.
They make mistakes. They learn from their mistakes. They learn that, love is what this child needs. Attention is what this child needs. This child, they can teach me something or I can teach them something. They pick a theme. They learn what the theme is for that child and they get better as they progress because this is what they do.
In Angela's case, investigators believe she wasn't the only one on the other end of Lloyd Jones's tactics, but she was the youngest they know of. They think he would have done this to others.
I believe that wholeheartedly. He had made contact with other women on social networking sites who had agreed to meet with him, and we interviewed several witnesses that actually came to the Lavaca area to meet him, and he actually went as far as driving to the same site that he buried Angela. In one particular case, one young lady, he asked or made the statement of, you should have sent a picture or told somebody where you were going. And she said, I did. I sent a picture to my best friend. And that probably saved that young lady's life. Another case is where he was meeting another woman, driving around talking about very unusual activities at Fort Chaffee. Human experiments with alligators. She luckily recognized that and actually did a rouge and was able to get back to the city of Lavaca. Potentially, he could have had 3 victims and could have carried on if it wasn't for the great investigation that was initiated by Crawford County and Van Buren that started the ball rolling, that they recognized that this was a dangerous situation, and they brought all the law enforcement agencies on board, and we were able to fortunately apprehend him before he murdered someone else.
That's the story of Angela Allen. Investigators say Angela recognized something wasn't right, and they don't believe she wanted to meet with Jones the night she was murdered. They think he forced her by holding inappropriate photos over her head. This young girl had a feeling, but not enough life experience. Her family hopes, though, you'll talk to the young people in your life, know what's going on with them, and support them in any way you can. That's it for Unnatural State of Crime. Join me next time as we explore another unnatural case.